in May of 2019, I did my first ever Club 100 video where I inducted 15 makeup products into Club 100, meaning I'd use them at least 100 times. Since then, I've been able to do 8 Club 100 videos, meaning I've brought over 100 makeup and beauty products into that club, and it's just a really nice motivator for me to be able to reach for some harder to pan products at least 100 times. By that point, I have a really good idea of whether or not the product works for me or my favorite ways to use it. Chic Geek on YouTube also does a Club 100 type video. Hers is more of a project pan where she shows you the products that she's trying to use at least 100 times. And typically they are like face palettes or eyeshadow palettes or products that she won't realistically finish all the way through. And then once she hits 100 uses, she'll roll in a new thing to take its place. I just referenced Chic Geek in my swatch party video a couple of videos back. I feel like I've been talking about her a lot. She's just one of those no skips YouTubers for me where anything she puts out I'm gonna watch and really enjoy, and I've been watching her for years. I'm very excited to say I have a product in here that's going to be inducted into Club 200, meaning I've used it 200 times. And I have, for the first time ever, I believe, a product that is going to be inducted into Club 300. I am so shocked about that product because I would not have imagined that there was 300 uses in that little piece of packaging, and it is still going. So I'm going to start with that product, and it is a lip oil from NYX, and it's the hashtag This Is Everything Lip Oil. I rave about the hashtag This Is Everything Lip Balm. The lip oil I don't like as much, but I recently started using it again after taking a break for a while, and I really do like it. I think I'm starting to like lip oils more than I did previously. I've always been like a really rich, heavy lip balm or really thick lip gloss fan just because they're very nourishing and they make me feel like I'm protecting my lips from getting dried out. But sometimes I want something a little bit lighter. This I've actually used 350 times. How have I used it 350 times and there is still product? Like, I actually don't know how long it's gonna take to finish this all the way through. And yeah, I'm really hoping I can finish it this year sometime, but really, I don't even know. I think just because it's such a thin formula, you don't use a lot every time you apply it. The next product I actually used for the 200th time today, and I didn't even realize it. I was just like updating it in my spreadsheet, checking to see how many times I've used it, and I realized that I'd used it 199 times, and today was the 200th time, and it's a single from ABH. It's in the shade Stone, and I use this as a crease shade, but I also use it as a face contour, and I also use it in my eyebrows, which is what I did today. I typically wear my eyebrows darker in the fall and winter months, and so I don't reach for this all year round, and if I do reach for it in the spring and summer, I'm just focusing on the tails. But yeah, I was just really surprised by that. There really isn't a ton of product left, like it's pretty much just around the edges, and even that is pretty flat because if I use it as a face contour, I am using a little bit bigger of a brush. This is an eyeshadow that I put in my plan to pan video that I just put out a couple videos ago. This is an eyeshadow I'd like to finish sometime next year. I don't know how long it's going to take me to actually finish, but it is kind of cool to know that I've already used it 200 times. So the rest of the products I've used 100 times. I'm going to start with this face palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Nudegasm face palette, and I do count each product as its own. So if I reach for the highlighter and the blush during one makeup application, I do count that as 2 uses. I tend to do that for face palettes just because they are 4 different makeup products, and if I'm using this highlighter and blush, then I'm not reaching for another highlighter or blush in my collection. So I do count them each as their own, so I haven't reached for each individual pan 100 times, and I will give you a total for each. I've used the highlighter 12 times and the blush 15 times, the bronzer 25 times, and the contour 48 times. But look at this, you can barely tell. How have I used that almost 50 times? There is no dent. Like, there is no indicator that I have dipped a brush into that and applied that on my face almost 50 times. Even these top ones, these are my 2 least used products from the palette, and because they have text on them, you can definitely see that I've at least reached for this a little bit. There's some disturbance on the top, but this contour is like the never-ending magic contour. I will say I prefer using bigger, fluffier brushes for bronzer, and so I do have to be extra careful when I'm dipping into this one that I'm not swirling too big because I don't want to grab any of the other products while I'm applying it. So I'm not a fan of bronzers being in smaller pans like this, or being so close to other shades that I could accidentally grab as well. But I am glad to have reached for this many times. Face palettes are not like a most used product in my collection, and especially with this being a more expensive product, I am glad to have reached for it that many times. Next, we have a blush, and I've been talking about this blush for years now. I just love it so much, and I wish they hadn't discontinued it. If anyone knows of a dupe for this, please let me know, because I'd like to recommend that in its place. This is a Makeup Revolution matte blush powder in the shade Beloved. This is a beautiful bright shade. It is very powdery, but it's also very pigmented, so I don't use a lot every time I use it. I kind of use it like right on the tops just to add a little bit of a pop, but it's definitely not one that I can just like dig in. And so even though I have used it 100 times, it doesn't really look like it. I think there might have been some text in the center there, but other than that, I don't think it looks like super used and abused. So that's, I mean, I'm not surprised though, because it is a super pigmented formula. And yeah, I only just realized now that the clip doesn't work anymore, so the packaging is starting to go. But I don't care, I'm going to keep it. It's one of my favorite blushes, and it's no surprise that it's one of my most used as well. The next product is a highlighter, and it is a stick highlighter from Cocoa Kind, and I've used this 117 times. Originally, I would just use it usually either before or after I put on foundation. I would just kind of put it on the high points of my cheekbone, a little on my nose, and then maybe a little bit on my forehead here, just to add like a really beautiful glow. It's got kind of like a peachy, rosy undertone, and so it does really work nicely with my skin tone, and it doesn't look too icy or too gold or anything like that. But yeah, I've already used it 117 times, and I'm not even close to being halfway done with this product. The next product I just talked about in my products I have it pan on video, and it's a color corrector from Flower Beauty. And this one I have used 130 times, and I only hit pan on it right around the 100 use mark because I was kind of pulling product out of the entire pot instead of just drilling down into one section. And so I have hit pan, but you can see there's really, mostly the product is just kind of gathered around the edges there. And I do talk about this also in my Partners in Cream updates because it's in that project as well. So I'm not going to be too repetitive and give my thoughts on this, but to me it's just okay. I'm going to finish it, and then I do have some other color correctors that I'm testing out to replace this once it's gone. The next one is a brow gel. This is marketed as a volumizing pomade from Merit Beauty in the shade Blonde. And this one, I mean, the packaging is really pretty and luxurious, but I have used this one over 130 times. Yeah, I've used it 137 times, and there's still product in there, which is great. It's getting a little bit drier. There is less product on the brush than whenever I first got it, but that's fine. I use brow gels until they're completely gone, and the one from Essence, which is a much wetter formula, admittedly, takes me about a year to finish, so I imagine that this will be pretty much the same. This one's really nice. I am using it in my brows today in conjunction with that ABH Stone shade, and I also like that the undertone is pretty cool toned. Some blonde gels and eyebrow products can pull really warm or orangey, and this one doesn't. The next one is a concealer, and this is from COSSIS. This is in the shade 3.2, and I will say that this is likely not the perfect exact shade match for me under my eyes, because this does pull very like yellowy olive, which I think I've been hearing that a lot of COSSIS products do that. I do really like this. I've used this how many times? 105 times. There is still plenty of product in there. I don't think it's running out. And yeah, I did want to reach for this more now because I do hear that sometimes COSSIS concealers and foundations do expire more quickly. The next one is a gel pot liner from ABH, and I've used this 101 times. There is technically pan in it, but it isn't because I actually hit pan. It's just because the product is drying up and changing over time, and so it's cracking. It still performs fine. It's still working the same way it did whenever I first used it, so I'm going to continue using it like that until it really does go bad. I did use up the brow pomade in the same packaging a couple of years ago, and I did have to revive it with oil, which I'm more likely to do with like a brow pomade versus an eyeliner. I don't know if I want to start adding oils to it because I want it to stay and not like budge whenever my eyes get watery or whenever I start like sweating or anything. Like, I bought this specifically because I knew it would hold up really well in the heat, and I would use this like for wedding makeup, for my own wedding and for my friends' weddings whenever I would do their makeup for them. And so I don't want to add oil to it because I think that would kind of change the formula in a way that it wouldn't work for me anymore. So I'm going to continue using it until it fully dries up. I don't think I'm ever going to really finish this all the way. The last one is not a makeup product, it's a perfume, and I talked about this in one of my favorites videos that I did recently, my late summer favorites, and this is from Penrose. It's the scent Sun Saints. This is a really, really beautiful summery scent. I'm not reaching for it right now as much, but I have used it exactly 100 times. If you can see, I'm probably a little, right around the halfway mark of the bottle, maybe a little bit above it. So I'm assuming I'm going to get a little over 200 uses out of this, which is good to know. I feel like that's a pretty decent amount of uses given the price. And there are some other Penrose Saints that I'd like to check out. So if you have any Penrose recommendations, please let me know. Please let me know if there's anything that you feel like you've used at least 100 times, even if you don't track exactly, something that you know that you've used so much that you've at least hit the 100 use mark. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!